Hello and welcome. I'm James Murphy from mCoding, and today we're going to be talking about the def main if name main idiom in Python and why you should be using it in all of your scripts. First off, not every file is a script. By a script, I mean a file that you intend to run, not a library. So something like this that just defines a function that you're supposed to import in another file is not going to benefit from this idiom. Most languages like C++ or Java have a kind of boilerplate setup that you need to write, even to write the most basic function. Java is notorious for having its public static void main string args as one of the first things that a programmer sees before learning to use it. But in Python, it's seemingly a lot simpler. All you need to do is say print hello world. But what I hope to convince you of by the end of this video is that you should really prefer this def main if name main idiom over just writing things out in a line. Okay, really quickly, if you're not familiar, what is this name variable? If you run the script from your terminal or elsewhere, you'll see that the name variable turns out to be this double underscore main double underscore. But if you import the file, you see something different. In this case, we see the double underscore name is if name main package dot import me to print name. The difference in behavior allows you to check whether the file is being run as a script or not. If you see Dunder main, then it's being run as a script, and if it's anything else, then it's being imported. You could just stop there and put all of the statements that you want to execute when this is run as a script into this if block, but I say you should go one step further and define it as a main function. Okay, so you can check whether or not your code is being run as a script or being imported, but why? Why would you want to do this? Is it just a way to flex on programmers that don't know the idiom, or is there a reason for actually doing this? Well, yes, of course there are reasons for doing it. Let's go over them. The first and most important reason actually has nothing to do with the language itself and everything to do with how people use it. Yes, you can use if name main to check whether or not your code is being run versus imported, but this isn't what it signals to the person reading your code. If name main is used to signal that this file is a script and you can run it. If I look at a file and I don't see if name main, I assume that I cannot or should not try to run it. It makes me think it's supposed to be a library or that it's only meant to be imported. Nothing about the Python language actually enforces this, but compare it to using an underscore as a variable name. If you see an underscore in someone's code, they're basically saying, I'm not going to use this variable. Nothing stops them from using it, but if they do use it, they're kind of breaking an unspoken rule in the Python community. Underscore means I'm not going to use this variable, and if name main means this is a script. Don't keep your reader guessing if this is supposed to be an entry point to your program, just make it explicit. Many editors like PyCharm use this as a signal. You can see the file on the left has this green arrow which says run hello, but there's no green arrow on the right. That's because PyCharm knows the signal if name main means this is something that I want to run. No if name main means this is probably a library, you're not meant to just run it. But why should you extract main out into a function instead of just leaving the contents in the if block? Here's a script that just defines some function and then uses it to compute something. Even if I put this code inside a name guard, everything that I do here is still in the global scope. In particular, this variable I is a global variable even if I didn't really mean it to be that. Suppose I define a function to compute some value and then later on I use it. Here I'm just trying to add up some evaluations of this function based off of this list, but I have accidentally made a typo. I used the variable I here, but the name of the loop variable was n. When I run the code, instead of getting an error for my typo, I silently get the wrong value. This is one of the worst kind of errors that you can have. And this is all just within the same file. Imagine if this happened in a different file. If in another file or at the console I do an import star of the bad script, I now have a global variable I that I didn't know about. So if it was this file that defined the compute val function, this file now has a global variable I, and it's even harder than in the last example to find this typo. Also, in the case where you didn't have an if name main at all, just importing the script will actually run it. That basically means that it's impossible to test your code without side effects. Also note that there are plenty of cases where importing your code happens automatically. This script explicitly imports the useful class from the bad script and then writes it to a Pickle file. It's clear here that we're importing the bad script because we explicitly wrote it. But in this script, there's no mention of the bad script. All we're doing is unpickling some object. We don't even know where it came from. And yet, when we run this code, we see that we did in fact import the bad script and run all of the code that was in its body. This is because pickle.load automatically imported the bad script in order to get the definition of the useful class. In the Pickle case, it was just a little bit annoying to have that extra stuff printed out, but in this case, we're doing some multiprocessing. The goal is to compute the values of this useful function over some list of inputs. Multiprocessing pool is going to start up a bunch of different Python processes that all automatically import this file. But without an if name main, you can see how this starts to get into trouble. Just importing the file starts up new processes, which then import the file, and so on. So you pretty much can't use multiprocessing in this case. Look what happens. And I can't even kill it with Control-C. I have to kill the terminal. Putting this code in an if name main prevents the rampant process spawning. But again, without putting this in a separate function, this is now going to give me a global variable named p. All you have to do to avoid this headache is just use the idiom. It's not that much typing, and in fact, you could probably just set up your editor to have it there automatically when you make a new file, or just have a template to paste it when you type main. One final, less used reason for making a main function is that this allows you to have an entry point to your program that you can use from other scripts. So I don't have to run this from the command line. I could import this from another file and then call the main function as if I was running it from the command line without starting a new process. In this case, you can have your main take in whatever arguments as an optional parameter. All right, that's all I've got on the def main if name main idiom. Let me know if you found any other reasons to use it. Also, let me know if you're a holdout what your reasons are for not using it. As usual, thanks to my patrons and to my donors for supporting me. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time.